Hi, Orange Theory Fitness. My name is Erin Bafuna, and I'm a physical therapist with Freedom Physical Therapy Services. And I'm here to go through some active stretches for your upper body to utilize at any time. It can be before or after an activity. Of course, throughout any of this, if anything hurts throughout, just please hold. I will try to give some modifications as we go. This will also be for the upper back as well. So we're not going to just limit it to the upper body, but upper body and upper or mid back. So we're going to start with some open and closing of the arms to really emphasize opening through our chest. So you're going to start with your hands together, feet hips width apart, and you're going to open and close. So sometimes when people do this exercise, I'm just going to turn sideways, they're just kind of flinging their arms back and forth, side to side. But with this, I want it to be intentional, where you're opening, really squeezing through those shoulder blades, and coming together and trying to round that upper back. So open and close. Thinking really big through your chest, squeeze those shoulder blades back. You can think of squeezing them a little up and back as you go. I would not like you to think really pushing them down and back. So it's okay if they do come up a little bit towards your shoulder, towards your ears as you're doing this. Okay, now as we finish that, we're going to reach with just your very simple arm across your body. And I want you to think of letting that shoulder blade move away from your spine. So we're thinking about that shoulder blade bone on your back. We want to think of it moving away, so we're stretching those muscles between your spine and the shoulder blade area, because then we will modify that for the next exercise. Please be mindful if you're having any shoulder pain with this, you can modify your arm position by bringing it up, bringing it down, or raising it up if you feel any pinching or any discomfort in your shoulder as you're doing this exercise. So now we're going to modify this to get a little bit of a different stretch to that shoulder. So I'm doing my right shoulder here. So I'm going to let my arm relax down. I'm going to think of squeezing my shoulder blade back. So this is relaxed. I'm going to squeeze back. And as I'm keeping that squeeze, I'm going to try to bring my arm up. So as you can see, my arm is not coming as far across my body, but that changes the stretch. So now I really feel a deeper ache right through this posterior or back part of my shoulder, which gets a little bit more specific to your rotator cuff region. So you're going to sit here and hold this. Be mindful if you have any pinching across the front, you might want to modify your arm position up or down, or you can release how much you're holding that shoulder blade pulled back position. As you're doing any stretching, you always want to make sure you're not holding your breath, so please make sure in through your nose, out through your mouth can be very beneficial in helping your muscles relax. Good, let's go ahead and shake that out. And we're going to try and do the other side. So again, this first one, we're going to just let that arm come across the body, really let that shoulder blade move forward and around your rib cage so you feel that opening through your back next to your spinal column and your shoulder blade. Nice deep breaths. Good, just a couple more second hold. Good. We're going to let that arm come down. Now this is where you're going to keep that shoulder blade squeezed back. So again, my normal resting position, I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blade back just a little bit, thinking tall. While I keep my shoulder blade squeezed back, I'm going to bring that arm up across again. So as you can see again, my arm before was all the way over here because I'm letting my shoulder blade go. But when you think of squeezing it back, it's okay to see your arm move less across your body, but we expect the stretch to change again. So potentially right through the shoulder blade, maybe a little down into your tricep region, because we're stabilizing the shoulder blade now and getting a little bit more into those rotator cuff muscles. Keep holding that one. Try to hold for one more deep breath here. Okay, now if you have a mat, we're going to work our way onto the floor. So the next one is very simple. If you've ever heard of the child's pose exercise, I'm sure you've probably done it before. If you have not, you're going to try to go onto your knees. We're going to sit our butt back onto our feet, and we're going to think of reaching forward. So we generally think of this exercise as a low back exercise, which it can be because we are stretching through the back. But as we sit back, we're going to think of reaching forward. So when we get tired through our upper body, we're potentially using our lats, which are those big muscles that go from the front of the shoulder down to the back. And when we do a stretch like that, we're really opening up the lat musculature. So you're gonna sit back onto your heels. If this is uncomfortable for your knees, you can take a pillow and put it at the back of your knees so you don't have to sit all the way back. It will help prevent excessive bending of the knees if you have irritation present there. But if this doesn't bother you, you're gonna sit back onto your feet. You're gonna let your head drop down. And instead of just sitting there focusing on your low back, I want you to think of reaching towards the edge of your mat. And we're gonna run through 5 deep breaths here. Don't forget to keep reaching towards the edge of the mat. I'm going to keep walking my fingers forward as I can. Now from here, we're going to walk our hands off to the right side. As you move to the right side, I want you to think of taking your left arm and you're going to reach your left arm over that right to really open up that side body, open up underneath that armpit region, really stretch those lats out. And just remember to keep your head looking down. Try not to look up. As we focus on taking those deep breaths, really focus on breathing into that deeper part of your rib cage where you'll feel that stretch further intensify. Nice. One more deep breath. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Okay, now let's slowly come out of that reach position. We're going to walk our hands off to the left, and now your right arm is going to reach over the top of your left. Keep your head looking down. Think of expanding through that lower rib cage with another 5 deep breaths. I want you to think of a nice 1 to 2 seconds of an inhale, maybe 3, and think of a nice 4 to 5 seconds at least on the exhale. And keep reaching that top arm, thinking of trying to widen that space between your middle finger and that bottom of your hip, thinking lengthening through the spine and the arm. Good, and one more deep breath. Very good. So now we're going to slowly come out of that pose, and we're going to work into the cat-cow. So cat-cow is another very commonly used stretch where most people think, again, overall spinal mobility, but we're going to focus it more on the upper part of the body. So you're going to have your knees hips width apart directly underneath your hips, and your hands are going to be shoulder width apart. If your hands tolerate being flat, you can leave them there. If you have any wrist-related issues or your hands are just painful or too tight for your hands to be flat, you can roll up an edge of your mat or a towel to put your hands over so that's not too much of a stretch throughout your hands, wrist, or if you have any tension or pain through here. I'm going to keep my hands flat, but for here when we start the cat-cow positioning, we're moving towards an exercise that goes like this and then looking straight up. As we go into that rounded position, because most people think of this as a lower back exercise, they really think of rounding through the tail. I want you to think as if someone's taking their finger and pushing you from the underside so that you're rounding more of this upper back area between your shoulder blades to really open up any of those muscles that help stabilize your shoulder blades that you would do with any lifting or rowing or any backward movement exercise. So we're going to run through this about 5 times here. So I want you to think of pushing your hands into the mat, and just like someone is pushing you from in between your shoulder blades at your breastbone from the front, really round out, let your head drop. And then you're going to let everything sag down, thinking of that chest coming through and trying to point straight ahead, looking straight up. Good, and then reverse. You're going to inhale through your nose. Really think of, again, that upper body really pushing and rounding out. And then we're gonna exhale and reverse. So everything is going to end up moving upward, looking straight ahead. Inhale again through your nose. Good. And exhale through the mouth. Looking straight ahead. Good. You can work through that about 2 more times. If you feel like you need to run through a couple more, the last one we will do is called thread the needle. So there are 2 different variations of this, but this is a great exercise because you can get pretty much all of the upper body in one nice big stretch. But it also takes care of that upper back area where a lot of people tend to have a lot of tightness. That can also really limit your ability to do heavier or more efficient lifting or repetitive pulling back motions if you're trying to really work on that area. So for thread the needle, there are 2 ways. I will show the first way I would like you to do it, and if that's too hard, I will show you the second. So we're going to start on your forearms, and from here, you're going to take your left hand and you're going to reach through like you're trying to thread the needle. You're gonna reach through and you're gonna feel that nice stretch in between your shoulder blades. You're gonna hold for a couple moments, and then you're going to come out the opposite direction. You're gonna try to reach towards the ceiling. As you try to reach, I want you to think of taking that shoulder blade and squeeze it back towards your spine and try to get those fingertips pointed up towards the ceiling. If that motion feels too restricted for you, I want you to come up onto your hands. Again, if you need to fold up your mat, if your hands can't go flat, you can do that as well. But if that other motion on your forearms is too restricted, you're gonna reach through. If that felt like it was almost too much pull on your back, and then reach up and come that way. So I'm gonna drop back down to this forearm position. When you're in the forearm position, it takes away a little bit of the extra range of motion from your low back. So that gets a little bit more stretching into our pecs, into our posterior deltoids, and as well into our rhomboids, middle traps, and lower traps. You're trying to incorporate your breathing with this, which it will only further intensify your stretching. You want to inhale on your reach, and exhale on your reach to the ceiling. Good. One more. And exhale. Good. Now we'll switch to the other side. So now I'm going to take my right hand. I'm going to stay in my forearms, but again, the alternative method would be to reach through. And then you're going to twist and think of opening your chest and reaching that top hand towards the ceiling. I'm going to drop back down to my forearms. Again, reach through, inhale. Exhale, reach up. Really think of pulling that shoulder blade back. Try not to let your body go forward like this. Keep that palm open towards the direction you're facing. Inhale as you reach. Exhale as you reach through to the ceiling. Inhale. Exhale. And last one. All right, and that takes us through to the end of the upper body stretching. Thanks.